Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered and Functional. My name is Mandy. I'm your host, and I'm here with my bestie, Sasha.
Hello.
And today, guys, we have a really good one for y'all. Birth control and what the heck you need to know before you start it, what the heck you need to know while you're on it, and what the heck you need to know if you choose to come off of it. And maybe a little bias here, improve your life. Probably going to cut that out, but that's how I feel. So I'm going to let it out now. So, Sasha and I have both had experiences being on hormonal birth control. It's definitely influenced our health, our fitness, arguably health, including mental health, at least.
Yes.
Yeah. So, we want to share with you some science behind what is going on when you choose to be on birth control. What's going on with your body, and how can we improve your health, whether you choose to stay on it or if you choose to come off of it. As a woman, what should you know before going on birth control? This is what no one teaches you. Why are you being put on it? So, really, the only main reason you should be taking hormonal birth control is literally to prevent pregnancy. And if that's what you're taking it for, if that's what fits your lifestyle, great, excellent, get down with yourself, queen. Love that for you. But a majority of women that are being prescribed hormonal birth control are not being told why they're being put on it. And most of these prescriptions that are being prescribed are actually for symptoms, not fertility prevention. So some of these symptoms that might be masked by birth control or a prescription could include irregular cycles, painful periods, cystic acne, suspected PCOS. So these are things that it's very important to understand the root cause and evaluate that first before trying to band-aid it with birth control, because that's really what's going on there. Is it is a band-aid. Another important thing that people need to understand before going on birth control is that it is not going to fix your hormones. So I'm just going to
No.
say that one more time. It is not going to fix your hormones. What birth control does is it will suppress them. So, synthetic hormones that are birth control will override what's called your HPO, not HBO, but your hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis. So, these birth control hormones will basically tell your ovaries, you don't need to work anymore. Go take a break. You will not be ovulating, hence why they are for fertility prevention. Your natural ovulation is going to be paused. You are not going to experience a real cycle or a real luteal phase. Which, sidebar, that's why if you are taking hormonal birth control, IUD exception, you can get your labs drawn whenever because you really don't have a luteal phase. So, the things that often do not get checked before being prescribed birth control, but they absolutely should, are your baseline lab work, especially thyroid, your androgens, especially if they're trying to claim like androgen driven PCOS, your blood sugar, inflammation markers, your nutrient status like zinc and B vitamins, magnesium, because birth control will often deplete these further. And there should really be some gut health considerations and stress and lifestyle factors as well, because a lot of these things can be addressed naturally and don't require a prescription from birth control, which will often exacerbate these issues.
Mm.
And the last point I have here is before going on, it is imperative that you get informed consent fully. Now, I'm not saying all doctors, but I think that a majority of them might drop the ball here a little bit or downplay some of the side effects that women may have. Now, we've all kind of heard about like the potential mood changes, and as women, I mean this in the nicest way possible. When we already have a natural cycle anyway, yes, we're prone to some mood fluctuations based on our natural hormone fluctuations. But being on birth control, a number of women that I know, plus myself personally, and maybe you've experienced this too, Sash, where you kind of have like blunted moods or like a flat
Mm.
affect or like just not really like a vibrancy. Another huge, huge side effect that gets downplayed is libido shifts. And the reason I say this is huge is because honestly, women as it is, I think struggle enough to get proper representation with their sexuality and their own pleasure, which I could do a whole episode on that too. But your libido changing, if you are in a relationship or not, can change your connection with your own body. It can change the relationship that you are in. So these really need to be discussed thoroughly with every woman before she chooses to get on it. Now, for you and I in particular, and any bodybuilders listening out there, you also need to understand that building muscle while taking birth control is going to be extremely difficult. It doesn't mean impossible, but you are going to have a much more challenging time building muscle than your fellow competitors that are not taking any hormonal birth control. Again, doesn't mean you can't take it. Maybe do a little research. There are different modalities out there that might be more benefiting, maybe a non-hormonal IUD, but then even with that, there are considerations for nutrient deficiencies as well. And the last two I want to touch on are there can be a big impact on your bone density. Specifically, if you get Depo-Provera, there's like a slew of lawsuits about that now. So if you've ever been given Depo and you have issues with that, please check that out. And the biggest one that affects most women of childbearing age that are interested in starting families is the potential implication for long-term fertility considerations. Now, that's not to say that you will never get pregnant. As your health provider will tell you, the second you stop taking birth control, like, yes, you can get pregnant. But I think the important thing here to really tell women so that they can understand is that once you get off birth control, like you might have 6, 12, 18 months for your body to regulate before you can have an optimal like preconception health there. So,
Mm.
Sash, I've just spit a shit ton of information, but can you tell me a little bit about what your experience was before you started taking birth control and what you were told or maybe not told?
First of all, that was amazing spitball of information, and I think it's very important for women to understand this, to know this, whether or not they're just planning to start birth control or they're on it. I know a lot of women could relate to specifically the area of like the last parts that you mentioned, what doctors failed to explain. I was not explained anything. I was simply told that you're getting on birth control because you have PCOS and this is going to help with the flare-ups. It wasn't in like a preventative way. It wasn't in a, hey, this is gonna like improve your. It was simply like you have acne, you have PCOS, this is gonna help regulate it when essentially all it did, like you said, was block the hormones from being able to produce. And it did absolutely no good because one thing that really stood out for me that you said in the mood changes was I did feel very bland. Like looking back at the time that, what was it, like 6 month or so window that I was on birth control, I think it was 9 total because I didn't go through a full year. I know that for sure. But when I think back at that window, it's like I was very meh.
Yeah.
I was very like nothing. Like it was just
Mhm.
like, yeah, if good things happen, cool, fun. If bad things happen, like shit. But there was no like comparing now how I feel and being able to feel the good and feel the bad. Like, having that
Mhm.
range of emotions and everything. It's like, yeah, sometimes that kicks you in the butt, like when you're on your period and whatnot. But it's also a beautiful thing because you can experience the great and just didn't have that with the birth control. And there were like a lot of other things. I'm sure that, with the muscle building, because I was just getting into the gym, that was definitely pausing that in that sense. So I was not told any of the essentially like informed consent topics that you listed off. I was not told anything about it effects on fertility in the future. And I am someone who hopes to have kids one day, and everything and anything that I do, I take into consideration how can this affect my body in the next 5, 10 years for me to be able to have kids.
Mhm.
And that's with anything. That's anything starting from vitamins, supplements, peptides, anything that I ever consider or look at, I take that into consideration. So for me, find like understanding that birth control is something that I could mess up my hormones so much that I won't. There's a possibility that I'll have a harder time having kids, or maybe I won't be able to, or whatever. Like that scared the shit out of me. And granted, I was very young, so that wasn't a conversation that I was even having with my doctor. I was like, what, 17,
Yeah.
18, somewhere along those lines. So it wasn't like, oh, hey, like I'm worried about having kids in the next year or two, but it was something that looking back at it, I mean, you couldn't pay me money to go on birth control. That is, anyone who knows me knows my stance on it. I'm not I'm not trying to sound anti-pill. I'm trying to just say my personal experience. I don't think that there's anything good about birth control, and I know that you asked me what I was told, but I do want to butt in a little part of the reason why, like the main function of birth control is for prevention.
Hmm.
If you want to prevent pregnancy, there are a lot of other safer ways that you can go about it. Yes, it won't absolutely guarantee that you won't get pregnant, but you know what? I've heard cases where women were on birth control and they got pregnant. So there
That's
is,
me. I mean, my mom had me
yeah,
and she was on the
yeah.
pill. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, look at you.
Oopsie.
You just made it out. You were like, I'm a swimmer. I'm making it.
I
I'm
was
making it.
ready.
And she was like, I'm ready. That's, see, there you go. So to use it as a pregnancy prevention, I believe that there are a lot of better tools that are better for your health, that are better for term, short term, and just being more smart about it because there's a reason why there wasn't there like a black box label on birth control? Like
There
there's a reason
is.
why, yeah, there's a reason why there's a black box label on birth control. And yeah,
But that
that's
doesn't get
that's
spoken about either. That's like
no, that
key to
doesn't.
me. Yeah.
That doesn't.
No,
They
thank you
don't
for.
put black box labels on freaking peptides. They don't put black box labels on half of the medications that I don't do antidepressants have black box labels?
They should, in my opinion.
They
If they
should.
don't, if they don't, I know, I mean, peptides don't because they're not FDA regulated, but like there
I
are plenty, I think anything that could prevent, that could potentially cause suicidal ideation, I think that should have a black box warning. So
I
if it
think so
doesn't,
too.
it should.
Yes, I agree. And I think that if it's not a do or die situation, you should not be consuming something of that sort.
No, okay, thank you for sharing because that brings up so many really good points. And the biggest one I think with the informed consent too is I think a lot of doctors will be like, "Hey, do you have any questions?" and maybe think that that's, "Oh, if they have questions, I'll answer them," and that's informing them, but a lot of women don't know what to ask,
Yeah.
which that in itself is a little bit of a problem. And I also think you
A
make
lot
it
of doc oh, sorry.
No, go on.
Sorry. I was gonna say, and a lot of doctors don't know how to answer.
That yeah, that's a good point too. And again, guys, not bashing doctors because at the end of the day, we're all human and we only know what we know and we only know what we're taught. So unless you go out of your way to learn more, do more, be better, it's kind of negative feedback cycle, unfortunately, until we break that cycle, which is what we're here to do today. But I also think it's a really good point you made about weighing the pros and cons about choosing to go on it. And I would love to do another episode about all the other modalities of pregnancy prevention. And I just taking it back to the original statement, the whole initial purpose of birth control, period, is birth control, like prevent pregnancy, not to band-aid over symptoms that you're experiencing. And there are other modalities. Only one that's 100% guaranteed is going to be abstinence. Like I said, birth control baby right here. So proof's in the pudding. Although, I mean, I guess also don't know how consistent my mom was being with that, but God bless her for not if she wasn't. But even with 100% consistency, it will not guarantee that it prevents pregnancy every single time. So, that being said, I want to talk a little bit about how it affects you while you're on it. So, I already mentioned it will suppress ovulation. So, you're not going to ovulate, so you won't get pregnant. Now, the important part about this And I know Sasha kind of mentioned it too about fertility planning like down the line. It's not to say that you won't have issues. I don't want to say that to potentially scare anyone. That's not the case. We're sharing this information. And I should also say, none of this is medical advice. It's just for education purposes. We're not sharing this to scare people. We're sharing this so that you have a full informed picture of what you're getting into when you choose to utilize this tool. Now, if ovulation is suppressed for years, this could potentially diminish progesterone for years. And the quick antidote I'll give for that is I was on hormonal birth control from 15 years old to 26 years old. So, arguably, pretty key developmental years for a woman. And coming off of that, I tried for years to naturally increase my progesterone, including stress management practices, including leaving a high stress trauma nursing job. I was never able to get my progesterone up naturally. And progesterone is key for maintaining a pregnancy. Now, in my case, having children is not a choice that I am choosing to make with my partner, but it doesn't matter. I still want to have the healthiest body I can. So for me, I chose to go on progesterone replacement therapy. But that's just to let women out there know, like, if you do use hormonal birth control for years and years and years, you could potentially have the same experience I did, or you could be totally fine. But it is something to be aware of, especially if you do want a family. But either way, just for health purposes. Some other ways it affects you as well is these synthetic hormones can raise your sex hormone binding globulin. Why is this important? What the heck does that mean? That is a protein that is going to bind to your free sex hormones in the body. So that also includes binding to testosterone. Your testosterone gets lowered because the SHBG is binding it up, and that's what's causing the lower libido. We see this reflected on lab work all the time. Another way it impacts you is cortisol patterns and your stress response. Typically, not in a good way either. And there's also potential for disruption of your gut microbiome. We might see a little bit more bloating, a little bit more water weight. Again, we're suppressing hormones, we're putting synthetic ones in our body. It's going to have some impact on those shifts. And for some women in particular, you might see inflammation markers increase just depending on how sensitive you are. So, this isn't a rule of thumb, but just to keep in mind, the longer your exposure on these medications, the potential recovery period could be longer too. Again, even though doctors say you can't get pregnant right away, which is true, some people do, but if you've been on it for 5 or 15 years, and you've been that suppressed, it might take you 6, 12, 18 months to recalibrate. Very important considerations to make. Now, Sash, you mentioned a little bit about how you felt while you were on birth control as far as like the mood. Did you, like, you don't have to go into details, but did you notice things like with libido shifts or like with inflammation or water weight?
Definitely inflammation and water weight. Like even when I look at pictures, I mean, I think everything was shifting in ways that it shouldn't have, like as far as like libido, water weight, stress, inflammation, just like everything. I definitely feel like I was at a higher cortisol. Like it's crazy to look back at because I didn't even run blood work before going on birth control.
They
I
didn't?
didn't run blood work. No. I didn't run blood work before birth control. I didn't run blood work after birth control. Like I did on my own, but not with the gynecologist. All that it was they did the inside check, like for the whatever it's called.
For
You
the
know what I'm talking.
ovaries, like the
Yes,
ultrasound?
yeah, yes, essentially. And that's when they were like, oh, okay, like, because I was complaining about things that I guess lined up with the symptoms, but not even like thinking back at it, it's like, damn, like, I don't even know where my cortisol was. Like, I'm making the assumption because I took it in my own hands to try to like lower my stress, and my lowering stress tactics were not great because they were not good. They were not good. My eating habits were not good. Like, nothing was good, and that definitely didn't add to the effects of what the birth control was doing to my body. But to answer your question, yes, I was significantly more inflamed. I was significantly more prone to like cravings and sugar cravings. I was significantly more irritable. It was just, I don't recall feeling like myself. And even
Mhm.
coming off of it afterwards, my health was not in a good place for a while. And I didn't make it better by going into a prep because I did get blood work run. And when I got off of the birth control, and the doctor was like, oh, this is a little bit off, but we can fix it by putting you on birth control. And I was like, literally just got off of it. Like, we're not gonna do that. And I didn't actually get like real labs until I did them with you when I was mid-prep. And at that point, there's not much that you can fix. So all
Yeah.
in all, post getting off birth control, I mean, I didn't have a period for of like 11 months or almost a
Yeah.
year. And I
Yeah.
was 21. Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. So you
No,
made
wait,
a
I was 19 going on to 20. I was 19 going on. Yeah, I was like 19.
she's just a baby.
Yeah, I keep forgetting how old I am.
Well, you made a really good point though too about coming off of it. And that's actually what I'm going to talk about to help people like give them some pointers on like how you can make that transition easier. So you basically just said you just kind of stopped taking it. So there was nothing you really did to kind of prepare for that.
I mean, I will be honest, when I made the decision that that's it, I'm done, this decision wasn't made because I was like done with it. I was like mentally
Hmm.
done with it. I was like, I can't do this anymore. But things just lined up because I had just moved to Florida, so I didn't have my gynecologist anymore to prescribe me the Ring. That's what it was called,
Ring. Yeah.
the NuvaRing. The gynecologist that I had was able to get it for me, but it wouldn't come in time for me to start again. And I was just at a point where I was like, I'm done with this. I don't need it. Like, I don't need it for prevention. I don't need it for protection. I don't like it is not helping my hormones. Like, I just don't need it at all. And when I was coming off of it, I had already started, I was like baby steps in the door with the gym. I was maybe going to the gym for like half a year at this point, maybe a little longer, but I was just getting into tracking my macros and like doing these kinds of things, paying more attention to what I'm eating. So I didn't intentionally do things
Hmm.
to help my body with coming off of it, which in hindsight, if I knew better, I would have. But I was being more intentional with the way that I was taking care of my body. So that may have helped in a way. But
Hmm.
again, being more intentional with how I'm taking care of my body very quickly transitioned into I'm starting a bodybuilding prep.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
So I think my body had maybe 4 or 5 months, maybe half a year between coming off of birth control and starting prep,
yeah.
lower calories, higher cardio, the whole 9 yards. Because I think I got off around February, no, around like March, because that's when I moved. And then I started prep in September. So whatever that timeline is.
Okay, so like sounds like you like had a little unintentional baby step in the right direction. Could have done more if you had known more, but that's
Yeah.
again the whole reason we're doing this and why we're here.
To help other women not make that mistake.
Yeah,
And I'm
guys,
excited for you to talk about the things that you are recommending because I'm curious to put in like what things I was doing unintentionally.
yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Let's just
I'll just
dive
like
in.
hold a finger up. I'll hold,
Hold a
yes,
finger up if.
yes, yes.
All right, perfect. Guys, hold a finger up if how to come off of birth control if you decide it is not for you, it's not working anymore, like Sasha said. There are some foundations that should be in place before you stop taking it. And arguably, as a coach, I'm going to say these foundations should be in place before you start taking it and during. But if they weren't, no biggie, no time like the present. Start doing them now before you stop taking that birth control. So, a couple of these are going to be blood sugar regulation, making sure that we are having balanced meals with protein, healthy fat, carb, veggie, micronutrients. Make sure your meals are balanced. Yep.
I was
Stress kind
kind of
of
there.
your heart was going in the right place. Then stress regulation, actually taking care of your nervous system hygiene, being intentional about like powering down after a long day, taking breathers during the day if you start feeling stressed out. Stress regulation should definitely be in place. Where were you with that, Sash? Okay.
25%.
Okay, all right. That's okay. We're still getting there. All right. Gut support. So digestion should be as optimized as you possibly can make it with proper liver support because again, we want to make sure we're detoxing out these synthetic hormones and also reducing inflammation. So what gut support could look like or mean is making sure you're getting enough fiber. For most women, that's going to look like in that 25 to 35 gram a day range, just depending on what your unique needs are, or making sure you're getting enough water. Were you at that point yet, Sash?
I think I was probably at like 65%
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Yeah. We
So
were
good
definitely
steps
yeah.
there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then also sleep optimization, which is super important because if you're going through like a progesterone withdrawal, most women are going to experience sleep changes, whether it's in the quality or like the length of the sleep that they're getting. Progesterone is one of our hormones that helps with sleep, which is nice. So, how are you sleeping before you got off birth control?
Probably like maybe like a 70%. Like sleep was okay.
Okay, okay, so we're not doing too bad here. All right, then
Yeah.
the next thing would be focusing on nutrient repletion. I mentioned briefly before that birth control will cause some nutrient deficiencies, B vitamins, specifically B6, B12, folate. It will cause magnesium deficiency, zinc, vitamin C, vitamin E, selenium, omegas as well. So it would be very helpful to either have more of these in your diet or start some supplementation to support that as well. Did you have any of that in place?
Yeah, I started with the supplementation. I wasn't as much paying attention to I was paying attention to the diet as far as I get more protein in, and I had just been learning how to track my food. So I definitely wasn't looking at micronutrients or vitamins,
Hmm.
but I was taking magnesium, I was taking multivitamin, I was on omegas. Those I was definitely taking. Well, magnesium, I don't even know if I was taking, but I know I was taking multivitamins and omegas for sure.
Okay,
So,
so you were doing some of
kind of
the
there,
things.
kind of, sort of, somewhat. I wasn't that
Yeah.
bad.
All right. So you did better than we thought. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
So, also some physical things to keep in mind when you are coming off of it too, which you kind of touched on a little bit what you experienced. First one being irregular cycles in the early months of coming off of it. And this you also may have experienced as well, Sash. If you were put on it as a band-aid or symptom suppression for like acne, a lot of women will have temporary acne flare-ups because again, it's just band-aiding the root cause. It's not really fixing the acne. It's just kind of like, oh, we'll just cover this up here.
Mhm.
So, very common for a lot of women to have another acne flare-up. Libido rebound, which most people are not mad about. They're like, oh my God, I have feelings again down there. Like, most women are really, really happy about that one. And you also touched on mood changes, so like feeling more yourself. And the other benefits that come back are you're going to see an improvement in your metabolic flexibility, meaning if we're having well-regulated blood sugar meals, if we're getting enough sleep, if we're getting enough water, if we're addressing like your gut support, a lot of women will complain about gaining weight once they start some sort of like hormonal birth control. You're going to slowly start seeing your metabolism improve once you get that birth control out of the picture, which again, many women love
Mhm.
that, myself included. Another big one is real ovulation returning as your progesterone increases naturally, which is absolutely beautiful. And then another like not so well known one, you might see some cervical mucus changes, which I don't think, I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know if you noticed that, but I don't think I even noticed my cervical mucus until I was like probably 32. Like, and I don't want to say I didn't notice it, but like I didn't pay attention to patterns with it. I was just like, oh, this is like annoying, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, great, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but cervical mucus changes. Why? Because you're making your own hormones again. So, yay for that. Last bit of nuggets I'm going to give before I open the floor a little bit is when it is necessary to potentially seek some additional support coming off of hormonal birth control. If you haven't had a period for 90 days or more, this is when you might want to start either seeing a functional health practitioner, talk to your gynae, talk to your doctor, talk to your nurse practitioner, your midwife, whoever you go to, just to kind of get some extra support in place to get your cycle back. Because a healthy female body will have a regular, consistent menstrual cycle. If that hasn't shown up in 3 months, probably time to get a little bit of extra help there. If acne flare-ups are very severe, probably time to get a little extra help. If you are having emotionally unstable mood swings, time for extra help. Heavy flooding or heavy flooding. Yeah, heavy flooding.
Yeah.
Heavy flooding bleeds, yeah. Get some help. If your metabolism is not returning and maybe potentially there's some thyroid issues that were impacted, time to get help. Or if you see any signs of insulin resistance, definitely time to get some additional support there. I know you've definitely gone to a couple doctors after to get some additional support. Any advice you would give to women that might need additional support? Because, like you also said, you didn't have a period for quite some time.
My biggest piece of advice is if you go to doctors, by all means, I don't want to shit on doctors. I don't want to say don't go to a doctor, don't go to a gynecologist. But a lot of the times, like Mandy and I have said on multiple podcasts now, what they don't know, they don't know. What they're taught is what they're taught. They see symptoms, their job is to give you solutions to the symptoms. It's not necessarily to fix the problem all the time, but it is just to give a solution. So my biggest thing would be don't just go to one doctor and hear, yeah, you should just stay on the birth control or you should go back on birth control. I would go and get multiple different opinions. I would go to the doctor if you want to go to the gynecologist. I would go and talk to a functional health coach because I've seen the most changes in my body, in how I feel, in how my body is responding, in how healthy my body is when I stepped away from the Western medicine and I stopped listening to the bullshit that they were trying to feed me and I walked into functional medicine. And full disclaimer and full disclosure, Mandy is who runs my stuff and helps me with my labs and teaches me these things. And that's a really big thing is I don't just get told what to do, I get taught why to do it, how to do it, what it does to my body. And then I see those things coming to life and those things changing. So, my biggest tip to a woman who is, coming off of birth control, maybe struggling with any of these symptoms or is worried about coming off or how her body's going to respond is to put your health first in the sense of do your own research, talk to multiple people, and don't rely on one opinion that got you to where you are as is right now. So try something different. I know some people are a little bit skeptical about, oh, functional coach, but or like a functional doctor or something that's not like a medical doctor. No, it's still a medical doctor. They just take a different approach to things because they don't try to fix your problem with other problems in the future. They try to fix the root of it. And sometimes that might be a little bit uncomfortable. You might hear things and you might experience things that you don't really feel happy about, and it's a process, but it's either you do 6 months of that or you go back to what the hell it was that you were doing and have to revisit this problem in the future anyways, because my assumption is that most women don't want to be on birth control for the rest of their lives. And that is just not a healthy and optimal way to live life. So there are solutions. Just sometimes you have to make some sacrifices. So like look going down the list of things that stood out to me the most. Yeah, my acne was bad. And it only got worse as I started, like it honestly only did get worse as I started healing my body because of how my hormones are and just like because I have PCOS and I had to find other ways to fix it where I'm fixing it yes internally but I'm also now fixing it externally by going to a medical esthetician and like finding different solutions because for me a solution was never and will never again be going back on birth control. You will deal with some of the symptoms and it is just one of those things where you deal with it and then you come out better on the other side.
Oh, that was very eloquently put. Thank you. I
You're
agree.
welcome.
I think the most important part that I want to leave you guys with here is just truly doing your research. Sasha put it really, really well about doctors only know what they know, and they are literally here to give you a solution. Like you're complaining about a symptom, they are here to offer a solution that oftentimes looks like a prescription that may not necessarily address the root cause of your complaint.
And it's also a
So,
quicker solution. I
right.
don't mean to butt in, but a lot of the times their job is, oh, there's a problem. How quickly can we solve it? What can we solve it with?
Mhm.
Because some may argue, well, if they're here to give a solution, why don't they give a solution that's a lifelong solution, like how to eat right, how to train, how to work out, how to do these kinds of things, what vitamins to take, what supplements to take, how often to get blood work done in order to have the root of the problem. And that's because that takes time. That takes time, that takes a hands-on approach, that takes effort, that takes not having 55 clients every single day walk through your door and just stamp them a prescription that takes and it's money. Yeah, they
It's
make
money.
money. Versus, for example, working with a functional coach, yeah, Mandy obviously charges her rate per month for coaching, but it's not just that she tells you, all right, these are the vitamins you take, these are the supplements you take. I'll talk to you again in 6 months and see how you're doing. No, it's every single week you're communicating on whether you're improving or not. Every single week, if changes need to be made, changes are being made because that's
Mhm.
the difference between slapping a prescription on your wrists and saying, all right, see you in 6 months, let me know how you're feeling, and actually on the day-to-day basis taking the steps to make the changes.
Mhm.
So a lot of the times doctors will take the faster route because they're there to fix your problem as quickly and efficiently, time-wise, as possible, versus coaches, functional health coaches, other coaches are here to get to the root of it and make sure that this is not a problem that arises again in the future for you.
Damn, girl, with the fire today. Yeah. Yeah, but it's very true. I'll tell new consultations all the time, like you need to minimally give this minimally 6 months, and most of the time people need at least a year or more because what caused the root of the issue didn't happen overnight. It happened over years. And that's not going to get reversed in 6 months most of the time. Sometimes you will see some really good improvements, which is great. But to get to the root of the problem, to fix that root or address it, and then give you a healthy, sustainable, like long-term health, I personally, I'd rather buckle down for a year, year and a half, fix the issue, and then go about my life healthy and happy than to continually have to go and get reassessed for a new medication or a new birth control, or now I have this symptom and now I'm on this. It kind of goes back to that quick fix episode we did. Think about the long-term implications, really do your research, ask the right questions, and if you have a practitioner that doesn't want to answer your questions, that's a red flag. Go find a new practitioner and ask multiple people and figure out who is going to be the best fit for you. Who do you feel the most comfortable with? And that goes for doctors. That also goes for coaches. If you're going to work with a coach, interview your coach. Come with all the heavy, hard hitting questions. And if they don't want to answer them, that's not the person for you. Dang, I could go on a tangent on this forever. But guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you for joining Sasha and I. Sasha, thank you for sharing your experiences as well about the
Thank
hormone
you.
birth control. Yes. And if you guys have any questions or you want to connect with us or carry on a conversation that we started here, I'm going to link Sasha's contact information and my own below. Guys, please give this podcast a 5-star rating. It helps us grow. It helps us keep doing these if you find value in them. And we'll see you next week on next Monday.